Hey guys, what's going on? It is Wednesday, and if it is Wednesday, it is time for Storytime with Taffy, episode number 20. I've been working my nuts off for this channel this week. I tell you what, it feels more like a job than the job I have, and I mean a fun job, like a crazy fun job, but the amount of sweat that goes into just making the simple everyday happen. I don't know how guys like Drifter and KYR who work the channel by themselves do it. While Rob's editing, I'm out looking for new games, trying to hatch new ideas, trying to get guests, trying to get new musical permissions. The shit's exhausting, I won't lie to you. The end result is always awesome, you're always happy to see it all come together, but here's what I've been up to this week. I've procured a few new guests for PA, we'll be playing with Wigmuzzle and I Am the Attack. Speaking of prospective guests, I'm working on JX23, been talking to Nerdy for the Win, who has in turn been trying to get us in touch with Sandy Ravage. Yeah, man, I don't even know what would happen if Sandy Ravage was on the show, just because of the simple fact that the dude is intimidating in real life, and his gameplay is more intimidating than he is in real life. So I don't know that we could get him to not kill people for like a 5-game set, but damn would the fail footage be awesome. So that's what's happening on a guest front. We'll try our best to keep things interesting, to keep things hopping fresh. When you guys talk to us, we do listen. New music! If you've been following me over Twitter, and let's face it, why wouldn't you? I'm fucking awesome. I have been in the process of trying to procure new music because as much as we love E-Double and Hoodie Allen, Woof is just running out of stuff to inspire him, and if that kid's not inspired, then we stop being interesting, and if we stop being interesting, then I gotta work more shifts at my restaurant, and I hate that job. So, we have new music now. We have permission from The Spectators, Basement Batman, Chitty Bang, and Can't Stop Won't Stop. So you guys, as these new PAs are rolling off the assembly line, are going to be treated to some new beautiful musical velvet flowing like liquid chocolate into your ear canals and making sweet, sweet love to your brain nodes. My animator's back from Europe, and that means I've been trying to get a hold of him. He's got some project that he's working on that has a due date of Thursday. I really just want to get something on the channel for you guys that's not solely gaming commentary-y type stuff. Over the last 24 hours, Woof and I have been trying to set up a Let's Play. Taffy and Woof play The Walking Dead, the new episodic from Telltale Games. So we've got an intro that we've built, kind of hijacking parts of their trailer and putting in our own stuff that I will link as it's an unlisted video down in the description. It should be fun, man. It's a great show. It's a great graphic novel series. It should be a great game. Telltale does good stuff. I love Sam and Max. That said, I want to go ahead and jump right into the story. Sorry about the huge update, but there's just a lot going on. There have been a handful of you in the comment section, like 6661ST Jimmy, who said, hey man, you did a story time with your mom. Tell us a story about your dad. And I've been meaning to do this for a while, since way the hell back when I did that commentary over COD 4, the short stories commentary where I mentioned my dad. Good guy, awful husband, pretty good dad. He did smart, cool things as a father that, like, a lot of my young memories were nice and fun. As we got older, he had some problems remembering that being married meant that you weren't supposed to sleep with anyone else, and that drove a really big wedge into the family for a long, long time. But that said, it doesn't change the fact that my dad is like John Wayne. This man taught me what it meant to be macho. Like, I'm still not a super macho guy, but anytime I do something really cool, like the time that I was in the Outer Banks in North Carolina and I tried to take on an entire family of Guidos from the fucking Jersey Shore that were California slingshotting water balloons into the crowd that was filled with like 3-year-old kids. When I walked up there and basically told them I would fuck their entire family tree up, and they backed down because they could tell that I meant it, that was cool. And I went and I called my dad, because my dad was the original badass. And it was stories like this, and I have a handful of these, but this one in particular is kind of why. We had a friend over one night named Scott, and Scott had a BMW. Not a nice BMW, but a BMW. My dad, who used to smoke cigarettes and has since quit after 30 some odd years of smoking Marlboro Lights, would go outside in his sort of black tracksuit. One of his concessions he made as we got older is he stopped smoking inside the house, and so he would put on this sort of black sweatsuit and house shoes, and he would light his cigarette, and then he would just kind of walk circles around the house, and not for any other reason than when my dad found out that a local criminal broke out of the jail, he went to the streets looking for him because it seemed like fun to him. And so he never turned off his sort of predator mode. He put the cigarette in his mouth and he kind of walked around the house and walked into the shadows of the house, and he did this every night, several times a night. The one time that my house got egged, my father bought a night vision scope for his AR-15, and that traveled through my school pretty fast. And I don't mean like a whole bunch of eggs, I mean one egg on our front door that it took me about 10 minutes to clean off with a warm wet sponge. So one night he's doing his sort of I'm a crazy man patrolling the neighborhood thing, and while he's lurking in the shadows next to the house, he just so happens to spot that my new next door neighbors across the street, which were a handful of remarkable white trash, one of our neighbors from across the street is actually breaking into Scott's BMW. So this kid apparently doesn't see the floating cherry in the darkness next to our house. So my dad slowly finishes his cigarette and puts it out and calmly walks up behind this guy. My dad, for those of us keeping score at home, was a Vietnam veteran who worked in the morgue, who then became a truck driver, who then became a cop in Denton, Texas, who then retired to become a postal worker. So there's a laundry list of mentally insecure jobs there. This retired cop and army vet wanders up to him very calmly and stands behind the guy who's breaking into the car. He's drunk off of his ass. He's digging into where the stereo should be. The faceplate's not even there, so I'm not even sure why this guy is trying to get the head unit, because there's no faceplate on it. So he's sitting there and he's digging at the faceplate. My dad puts the cigarette out, stomps it out, and taps this guy on the shoulder, and this guy is so drunk that he turns around and he waves my dad off like, "No, man, not right now." And I guess about a solid 20 seconds passed before drunk logic kicked in and he said, "Oh wait, I'm committing a crime. I really shouldn't have people bothering me right now. Who the hell is behind me?" So the guy turns and he swings the flathead screwdriver at my dad. My dad's like karate chops it out of his hands and it flies into the flower bed next to our house. And this kid tries to take off. My dad basically grabs him by the scruff of the neck and throws him down into the embankment in front of the house, and then drags him up to the front of the house, wrenching both of his thumbs up behind his shoulder blades. And he gets him up to the front porch, and our front porch is entirely made of concrete. I'm sitting inside, surprise, surprise, playing video games on my Super Nintendo, and I hear this huge commotion out front. And so I walk out front and I hear, "Marcia, call the cops," and that's my mom's name. And I walk outside to take a look, and this kid is like staring at me like, "Oh dude, guy, man, please don't let your dad call the cops. Dude, I'll do anything you want, just don't call the cops." And my dad responds with, "I don't know if you've noticed, child, but you're doing whatever I want already because I'm telling you to and I'm bigger than you." And so he says, "I tell you what, kid, get down on your knees. We're gonna wait for the cops to get here." "Oh God, please dude, don't call the cops, don't call the cops." "Get down on your knees, I'm not gonna tell you again." "Oh dude, don't call the cops, please man, don't call the cops." I seriously am not going to ask you one more time. Get down on your fucking knees. "Man, I just don't call it." So at this point my dad grows weary and kicks this kid's legs out from underneath him, but doesn't give him his hands back. He's still got his thumbs wrenched up behind his shoulder blades, and he shoves him enough that his head hits the mailbox, and then he falls face first onto our concrete, solid concrete, multi-ton front porch, and he hits it and bounces off it. Now he looks up, but he's still drunk, and he's still concerned that he's going to jail, and there's still but now there's blood just kind of flowing off of him. And so he looks up at me and is like, "Hey man, please don't let your dad call the cops." And I was like, "Fuck it, dude, you broke into the wrong goddamn house. Like, I don't know what to tell you, brother. Your judgment is not sound." And so the cops come and they grab this kid and they're ushering him to a police car. And at this point my dad gets a little uppity where he walks up to this kid's face and is just like, "Yeah, I think you picked the wrong house, you son of a bitch," like now that he's not holding him down. And the cop was actually somebody who went to our church and was just like, "Brad, we got it. Thank you, Brad. Thank you." And if that were just the story, that would be pretty cool, but there's like a follow-up. There was like an instant sequel where the cop comes up and he said to my dad, "This guy's a part of as much a gang as Jerome, Idaho can have." It's a town of 7,000 people. At the time I was living there was one functioning traffic light in the center of town. So this guy was in as much of a gang as this town had. The gang's leader actually was a kid whose father had suicided by cop, and they were just kind of convinced that his son was more than happy to go the same way. So this guy apparently had given my neighbor a shopping list of things to thieve, and apparently the head unit was on the list. They take this kid off and they put him in jail, and my dad lights another cigarette, and Scott, who was the owner of the BMW, who was by no means a slouch himself, this guy dropped out of SEAL training, but I mean, I'm willing to bet I'd get my ass kicked by anybody who dropped out of SEAL training, and I'm not a small dude, and Scott was a huge dude. So we have three very large guys standing on the front porch, and I'm the smallest one at like the time 6 feet tall, 200 pounds. And so Scott's sitting there and he's kind of prattling off about, "Oh my God, I can't believe what just happened." I'm just kind of sitting quietly and my dad's smoking a new cigarette. And as they're talking, my dad cuts Scott off and says, "Scott, do you see him?" And Scott pauses for a second and says, yeah, you know what, I do. The car on the corner? He goes, yeah, right after the cops left, a car pulled up on the block corner and nobody had gotten out. And so my dad says, I wonder if this was the guy they were talking about. And Scott says, well, I don't know. There's probably one surefire way to find out. We should probably go say hello. And right as they're talking about this, one of the passenger doors pops open, and sure as shit, the guy whose dad suicided by cop gets out of the car and starts to sort of case the neighborhood to see what had gone on. He'd lost a soldier, so he's trying to figure out and do a little recon. And so my dad turns to Scott and says, Scott, you're younger than I am. Take the kid on foot. I'll go deal with the car, because there were 3 people in the car. And Scott, being the former Navy guy that he was, said, sure thing. And he walks down the front porch and he goes to talk to this kid walking in front of the house. And the kid, realizing that this massive military guy is walking towards him, freaks out, runs to my neighbor's front lawn, grabs like a Huffy, like a 12-year-old's Huffy, and takes off on the bike as fast as he can. And I turned to my dad to be like, holy shit, did you see that? And my dad's fucking gone, like a ninja, like a stealthy 45-year-old ninja. And what's weird is I don't know where he's disappeared to, and it's the house that I've lived in for 10 years. Like, I turn and I look, and like shrubs 20 feet away are shaking, but I have no idea how he got there, and it's my house. It's not even like it's unfamiliar terrain. I'm just like, I don't know where he disappeared to. And so inside this car, there's a girl driving and 2 thugs, 2 like little teenage hoodlums. And the girl's like, oh my God, our leader just took off on a stolen bike. Well, what should we do? What should we do? And the guys are like, turn on the car and get the fuck out of here. She goes, okay. So she turns on the car and she throws on the headlights, and like Batman, my dad has just magically appeared in front of the car and is now tapping the barrel of a 45 Glock on the hood. So needless to say, the girl who's driving freaks out and screams, and my dad, in the calmest voice he can muster, goes, sweetheart, I'm gonna need everyone to keep their hands where I can see them. Take the keys out and throw them on the ground. And she won't stop freaking out because there's a big 6'3" dude with a gun pointed at her in front of her car. You're not listening to me, sweetheart. I need you to focus. Put the keys out on the ground. And he stands there, and she eventually does what he says, and they stand there together with a weapon drawn, and the cops come right back. I mean, if you call them, they just keep showing up apparently, and yeah, they took the group of loiterers into custody, and they got the girl on a suspended license. They put a warrant out for the arrest of the other guy for apparently bike theft, because he took off on the Huffy. That was the one thing they had him on. But stories like that are the reason that for a couple of weeks scattered throughout my high school career, I was a relatively popular high school guy, but my father was like more popular at my high school than I was for weeks on end. So like I said, not a good husband, not always a great guy, pretty good dad, and you slept soundly when you slept under his roof. Like, you knew you were safe. I've run a little bit long on this one, but man, there was a lot. There was the update information, there was the long story with my dad, but a good story, I hope. I really enjoyed telling that story because, God, he's a badass. Head down to the comment section below and do me a favor. We have kind of a moral conundrum here at the MrWoofless channel. Over the last year, we have never asked for a like or a subscription just because of the simple fact that we didn't want to seem like beggars. We wanted to earn everything that we got. We didn't want to sort of force our way into people's consciousness and sort of coerce them into giving us attention. But that was back when we didn't have any attention. Now we have attention, and we're wondering, if we start saying things like, if you enjoyed this, please leave a like, do you feel like that's sort of compromising our integrity? Or is it at a point now where we have all the attention that we want and that we need, and it's just a reminder for the people who enjoyed the video that might not actually remember to click the like button and therefore give us a little more pub? We're torn about that. We've been talking about that with some of our close friends, so now I reach out to you. So aside from music and guests and other stuff for me to talk about, give us a comment down below. Let me know if you feel like we should stick with the old habit of never asking for a like or a sub, or if we're finally at a point now that if we don't shove it down your throat, you'd be okay with us reminding you at the end of the video. As always, I thank you guys for tuning in. Episode number 20 is in the books. We will catch you guys next week, same time, same channel, on behalf of the MrWoofless channel. This is Taffy, and I am out.